welcome back. In this section of the lecture, we'll discuss the legal frameworks in the fight against trafficking in person. Basically, we will divide the discussion between the international and the domestic legal frameworks that we use in the fight against trafficking in persons. Now, for the international legal instruments that we have, we'll focus our discussions on the following: the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, optional protocol to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the sale of children, child prostitution, and child pornography. Likewise, another legal instrument is the International Labor Organization Convention number 182 on the worst forms of child labor. And of course, the Palermo Protocol, or the UN Convention on Transnational Organized Crime, and its protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. Now, the Palermo Protocol, as I've stated in the previous lecture, discusses basically three types of trafficking crimes. So yung drug trafficking, gun running, gun trafficking, and of course, trafficking in persons. Now, take note that in the Palermo Protocol, they likewise encourage member nations to criminalize what is known as human smuggling. No, the movement of persons from one location to the next, not for the purposes of exploitation, but merely to help that person facilitate his migration, his out-migration from his country of origin to the next. I likewise stated in the previous discussion that in the Philippines, we have yet to enact a law that would penalize human smuggling as a form of organized criminal activity. Okay. Now, the Palermo Protocol is the first global legally binding, the first legal instrument that is recognized in the international arena relative to the definition of trafficking in persons. So, basically, most of the member nations of the United Nations, members of the United Nations General Assembly, they adopted the definition of TIP as stipulated in the Palermo Protocol. The Philippines is one of those countries that adopted this particular definition. Now, likewise, the Palermo Protocol recognizes the fact that trafficking in persons is actually a form of organized crime, and that the said protocol also underscores the fact that trafficked persons, especially women in prostitution and child laborers, are not to be viewed as criminals but rather as victims. That is a very important distinction na kinakailangan hindi tingnan bilang kaanib ng organized criminal group yung taong na biktima rito, sa halip sila ay biktima. In fact, in Philippine law, any criminal act relative to trafficking in persons that has been perpetrated by a victim during his period of victimization will not be taken against him or her. Kung merong siyang ginawa na kabahagi doon sa trafficking in persons during the time na siya rin mismo ay biktima ng TIP, halimbawa, nang recruit siya ng kapwa niya, ng mga kababayan niya para maging kaanib, maging biktima nung TIP, yung pangre-recruit niya na yon, hindi ho yun punishable because ginawa niya yon during the time that he or she was a victim of the same criminal offense. Take note also that under the Palermo Convention, the consent of a victim of trafficking is irrelevant. Napakahalaga ho ng bagay na ito sapagkat maraming mga perpetrators ng human trafficking, ang kadalasan nilang sinasabi, kadalasan nilang argumento, ginusto niya yan. In fact, siya ang nag-offer ng kanyang sarili para ibenta niya ang kanyang sarili sa akin, and so on and so forth. Sabihin nung pimp, nung bugaw, ng middleman, siya ho ang lumapit sa akin at nagsabi na tulungan ko siya makahanap ng customer. Hindi ho yan tinatanggap na depensa ng ating husgado. Maliwanag rin po yan sa Palermo Protocol. The consent of a victim of trafficking is irrelevant sapagkat nga po, ang binibigyan ng pagpapahalaga rito, ini-exploit natin. Tayong mga kriminal, kayong mga kriminal, yung gumagawa ng ganitong klase ng krimen, na-exploit dito yung vulnerability ng tao. Likewise, The definition of TIP provides a comprehensive coverage of criminal means by which trafficking takes place. The criminal means is not limited anymore to force, coercion, abduction, deception, or abuse of power. Merong may mga other less explicit means such as we abuse a victim's vulnerability. Diba? Maraming pamamaraan ho ito. Kadalasan nakikita inaabuso yung kahinaan, economically, kahinaan educationally, kahinaan mentally, psychologically ng biktima. Okay? And isa pang maliwanag na nakastipulate sa Palermo Protocol, the exploitation of prostitution and trafficking cannot be separated. Mahirap ihiwalay. Likewise, hindi na kinakailangang mag-cross ng border. Hindi na kinakailangan ng actual movement of the trafficked person from one place to the next, from point A to point B for the act of trafficking to be consummated. Nung araw kasi pag sinabi mong trafficking in persons, gun running and so, gun trafficking, drug trafficking, yung word na traffic means movement of person under the movement of goods and persons. Under the Palermo Protocol, the actual movement of a person need not be consummated anymore. In fact, in Philippine law, the mere offer to sell the services of a trafficked person is enough to consummate the crime. Hindi na kinakailangan na dalhin mo yung tao magmula doon sa kung saan kasa siya nanggaling hanggang doon sa bahay mo, kung saan mang hotel mo gaganapin yung krimen. Hindi na ho kinakailangan yon. The mere offer to sell is enough to consummate the crime. Likewise, in Philippine law, hindi na kinakailangan ni actually i-consummate yung pagtatalik o yung pang-aabuso dun sa tao sexually o pang-aabuso by means of labor. Hindi na kinakailangan under the Philippine law. Ang binibigyan ho kasi ng pagpapahalaga rito ay yung exploitative purpose na meron kang intensyong abusuhin yung biktima. Hindi na kinakailangan actually na maglakbay, mag-move, umalis pa yung tao. Okay. So, the first Philippine law, the Republic Act 9208 or the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act 2003 is actually patterned, tailored from the Palermo Protocol. So it was enacted on May 26, 2003. Now the Amendatory law, the Republic Act 10364 or the expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act took effect 15 days after its publication in the Philippine Gazette, and it took effect on February 13, 2013. Now, let's take a look at the prohibited acts relative to trafficking in persons. Maliwanag po ito. Trafficking in person refers to recruitment, obtaining, hiring, providing, offering, transportation, transfer, maintaining, harboring, or receipt of persons with or without the victim's consent or knowledge within or across national borders. So nakita nga po natin, within our national borders or across our national borders. Obtaining. So kung kukuha ka ng serbisyo ng babae to engage in sex, so sexual solicitation. So if you will hire the person, o kung ikaw naman ang nagpo-provide, ikaw naman yung bugaw, ikaw naman yung nagme-maintain ng kasa, o di kaya, ayan nga pong sinabi ko, the mere offer, you're merely offering, hindi na kinakailangan i-consummate. O kung di kaya ikaw ay nagtatransport, no? So ikaw ay tricycle driver or taxi driver, hindi ikaw ang operator, kundi kinukuntsaba ka lamang, kinukuha ng serbisyo para dalhin ng biktima from one place to the next. So transportation, transfer, these are all prohibited acts, no? So, kung ikaw naman ay nagme-maintain or harboring, ikaw ay may-ari ng isang apartment complex. Alam mo na yung isa sa mga nangungupahan sa apartment complex mo ay nagme-maintain ng isang kasa ng prostituted women. Hindi naman ikaw talaga ang nagme-maintain doon. Hindi ikaw ang financier. Ikaw lamang ay nagpapaupa, pero the mere fact na alam mo na yung umuupa sa'yo ay isang kasa, isang trafficking in person operations, hindi mo na-report sa kapulisan. Pag ito ay nahuli, na-raid, ikaw na may-ari ng apartment complex, kasama ka sa asunto for violating, for committing, or harboring trafficked persons in your apartment complex. Maliwanag po yun. Ikaw ay tricycle driver, alam mo na ang dinadala mo mga kababaihan o mga kabataan ay dinadala mo magmula doon sa kanilang kasa, papunta doon sa kanilang mga customer. Alam mo yon. Pag that is proven to be a fact, a fact that you know of that knowledge, ikaw din po ay makakasuhan ng kasong ng trafficking in persons. So ano naman po yung means? Ano yung pamamaraan? By means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or of position. So napakahalaga po nito. Abuse of power or of position. So taking advantage of the vulnerability of the persons or the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person. So, relationship between bosses and their employees, relationships between teachers and their students, relationships between parents and children, and so on and so forth. Any relationship that there is the relationship of power or of position. So, ano naman yung exploitative purpose? For the purpose of exploitation, which includes at a minimum the exploitation or the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery, servitude, or the removal or sale of organs. Now, if the victim is a child, the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, adoption, or receipt of a child for the purpose of exploitation, or when the adoption is induced by any form of consideration for exploitative purpose shall likewise be considered as trafficking in persons, even if it does not involve any of the means set forth in the preceding paragraph. Maliwanag ho ito. Okay. Sa TIP, there are three interrelated and interdependent elements: the acts, the means, and the exploitative purpose. But, there is a but. Okay. If the victim is a child, the second element or the means becomes irrelevant, no? So ang titingnan lang natin diyan ay acts or exploitative purpose. Maliwanag ho 'yun na kapag bata ang biktima, minor de edad, child below the age 17 and below, so hindi na natin kinakailangan i-prove yung means. But then again, in some instances, it has to be very, the prosecutor and the task force officers, the police officers, have to be very careful in ascertaining the age of the person involved, of the victim. Because in some instances, if we simply rely upon the statement of the victim, ilang taong ka na? 16. And at later point, the person is actually proven not to be 16, then for procedural defects, for mere technicality, baka magka-problema po yung ating asunto, yung ating information, no? Kung wala kang nilagay na means on the assumption that the victim is a child. Please make sure that all the attachments are contained therein, specifically the PSA documentation of the child stating as to the date of birth of the person involved. Now, the acts can be with or without the victim's knowledge or consent, knowledge or consent within or across the national borders. And take note, we keep on stating this, the exploitative purpose need not be consummated. Hindi kinakailangan may actual na paggamit ng kanyang katawan. Hindi kinakailangan may actual na pagtanggal ng organ niya. Hindi kinakailangan na mayroong actual na paggamit sa kanya for labor and so on. So, this is a very simple enumeration, but this is not exclusive. There could be other ways to look at this. So, ayan nga po ay isang simpleng pamamaraan ng tabular representation kung ano yung mga elemento ng trafficking in persons. So ayan na nga po, the acts, the means, exploitative purpose, and you have a crime of trafficking in persons. Now, if the victims are adults, each of these elements must be present and linked to each other. The acts must be achieved by one of the means, and both must be linked to achieve the exploitative purpose. Okay? So, basically, balikan natin ang previous take a look at the checklist, di ba? Check mo lang yung checklist. So, meron bang acts? Meron bang means? Anong purpose? Okay? So, if you have the acts, the means, and the purpose, tapos. You've got a crime of trafficking in persons. Now, should you say one of the elements of TIP is not present, so wala yung exploitative purpose, does it necessarily mean na wala ng asunto? Maaaring meron pa po. You can take a look at the revised penal code and other special penal laws that may have been violated relative to the crime. Pero kung walang exploitative purpose, baka hindi talaga trafficking in person. So, but do not throw away the case automatically, because there may be other cases that may be filed against the person pertinent to other laws available. Okay, so again, as we stated earlier on, the element of the exploitative purpose need not be consummated. Hindi kinakailangan consummated actually, pero yung intent, to traffic the person was for purposes of exploitation. Maliwanag na dinala yung tao, binenta yung serbisyo ng tao, dinala by means of kung anumang means available, by force, by deception or whatsoever. Dinala doon sa lugar na yon for the purpose na siya ay gagamitin sa paikipagtalik, at ang paikipagtalik ay mayroong kaakibat na pagbayad. Pero hindi kinakailangan mayroong aktual na pagtatalik na maganap. Ang importante ay maliwanag doon sa nagbenta, maliwanag doon sa nag-offer, doon sa trafficker, maliwanag doon sa biktima na siya ay dadalhin doon para makipagtalik doon sa customer, at maliwanag doon sa customer na ang tatanggapin niyang tao kaya siya nagbabayad ay sapagkat ang purpose ng kanyang bayad ay to exploit her sexually. So, yun lamang ang kinakailangang mapatunayan. Hindi mo kinakailangang patunayan, tanungin na, nagtalik ba kayo? Pag sinabing hindi, itapon na, hindi kinakailangan yon. Ito ay napakahalagang paalala sa ilan nating mga kasamahan sa law enforcement. So, wag masyadong maging agresibo, wag masyadong maging pabibo to a point na baka naman you might go beyond the boundaries required by your mandate. Tandaan po natin, the use of a trafficked person by a person of authority, nasa uniformado, military or uniformed personnel or other related services, that qualifies the act of trafficking. It becomes qualified trafficking. So mas malala ang kaparusahang matatanggap kapag ang gumamit sa traffic person ay taong nasa serbisyo, taong nasa gobyerno. So maliwanag po yun. You don't need to consummate. Likewise, the consent or knowledge of the victim is irrelevant. Again, if the victim is a child, the means is also irrelevant. Okay. So, ito yung mga acts, to recruit, obtain, hire, provide, including those done under the pretext of domestic or overseas employment or training or apprenticeship. Under the pretext sa deception, di ba? So, ginugoyo mo yung tao, sabihin mo, pupunta tayo ng Malaysia, pagdating doon, mayroon kang trabaho bilang waitress, so di kaya pumunta ka ng Japan. Ang trabaho mo sa Japan is actually, apprenticeship. Magti-training ka doon bilang hotel frontline services, pero sa katotohanan hindi naman pala for the purposes of sexual exploitation. Introduce or match for money, profit or material, economic or other consideration, or any person as may be provided under Republic Act 6955, any Filipino woman to a foreign national for marriage for the purpose of acquiring, and so on and so forth. So hindi rin po pwede yung mga mail order bride services. That's a form of human trafficking. So these are the illustration, these are the enumeration of the punishable acts under Section 4 or the acts of trafficking in persons. So this is a checklist na kinakailangan natin tingnan to be able to take a look if a crime of TIP has been committed. This is the first element, Section 4, the acts. So ito nga po yung binabanggit ko kanina. To recruit, transport, obtain, transfer, harbor, maintain, offer, hire, etc., etc. To adopt a child to engage in armed activities. Ito ho ang kadalasang mahirap nating i-prosecute, sapagkat belligerent na nga po yung gumagawa nito. Sila ay mga kaaway ng Estado. So, but again, we have to remind these people, maaring legitimate ang kanilang ipinaglalaban. May sapat silang hinaing para gawin ang kanilang ginagawa. Pero, do not involve children. It would be highly unfair, unjust for the child to be involved in such an armed conflict. Okay. Trafficking for purposes of exploitation of children includes the following: all forms of slavery or practices similar to slavery, and so on and so forth. Now, the use, ito yung 4.2, ito yung medyo talamak ngayon, yung tinatawag nating online sexual exploitation of children. The use, procuring, or offering of a child for prostitution, for the production of pornography, or for pornographic performances. Marami tayong kaso ngayon ng mga OSEC, online sexual exploitation of children, at ito ay nagiging isang backyard industry. Kadalasan, mga magulang, mga kamag-anak, mga kakilala ang siyang perpetrator. Ngayon, ang kanilang argumento, kaya nila ginagawa ito, hindi naman talaga nabababoy daw di umano yung mga bata, sapagkat yung nambibiktima ay nasa other end of the world using of internet lamang. Kaya lang, yung epekto nito sa mental constitution, sa psychological constitution ng bata, sa psychological health ng bata ay napakalalim. So, online sexual exploitation of children is a form of trafficking, of organized trafficking in persons that we need to be especially careful against. The use, procuring or offering of a child for the production and trafficking of drugs, yung ginagawang drug mules, yung mga bata. The use, procuring, or offering of a child for illegal activities or work which by its nature or circumstances is likely to harm their health, safety, or morals. To organize or direct other persons to commit the offenses defined as acts of trafficking under this act. Ayan po ang kaakibat na kaporsahan. Imprisonment of 20 years at isang multa na hindi bababa ng 1 milyon at hindi lalagpas ng 2 milyon. Now, where the victim is a child, any of the following acts is deemed attempted trafficking in persons. If you facilitate the travel abroad of a child na nag-iisa, walang valid reason at walang permit galing sa mga magulang, legal guardian at sa DSWD, that is already enough to file a case attempted TIP. If you execute consent to adopt for consideration, may bayad yung adoption, that is already attempted trafficking in persons. Now, if you recruit a woman to bear a child para ibenta, surrogate motherhood, surrogate pregnancy, that is attempted trafficking in person. If you simulate birth, nagpanggap ka na nagbubuntis para magbenta ng bata, that is attempted trafficking in persons. If you solicit and acquire a child to be sold, pumunta ka, taganap ng bata, bibilhin para ibenta, that is attempted trafficking in persons. The penalty is 15 years. Ang kaparusahan na hindi bababa ng kalahating milyon at hindi lalagpas ng 1 milyon. So maliwanag po yun. Lahat po ng adoption has to go through the legal process. Ang legal adoption ay kinakailangan magdaan sa DSWD. Hindi pwedeng nag-usap lamang kayo ng kapitbahay mo, hindi pwedeng nag-usap lamang kayo ng kamag-anak mo, and so on and so on. Even if the intent is good, kasi kinakailangan gusto mong matulungan yung tao, no, hindi ho po pwede yun. The adoption has to go through the Department of Social Welfare and Development to be able to ascertain that the legal process is followed and that the benefit of the child is taken care of. Now, what about the liability of the accomplice? Now, the liability of persons who knowingly aids, tumulong, abets, and cooperates in the execution of the offense. The penalty is 15 years of imprisonment and a fine of $500,000 to $1 million, with automatic revocation of recruitment license upon conviction if the recruiter is registered under the Department of Labor and Employment. However, if the victim of the recruitment is a child, automatic ang revocation ng lisensya ng employment agency, ng recruitment agency na yon. The definition of an accessory. An accessory is whoever who has the knowledge of the commission of the crime and without having participated therein, either as a principal or as an accomplice, takes part of its commission in any of the following manner. A. By profiting themselves or by profiting, sila din ay nakinabang, or assisting the offender to profit by the effects of the crime. By concealing or destroying the body of the crime or effects or instruments thereof in order to prevent its discovery. By harboring, concealing, or assisting in the escape of the principal of the crime, provided the accessory acts with abuse of his public functions or is known to be habitually guilty of some other crime. The imprisonment for being an accessory is 15 years, a fine of not less than $500,000 to no more than $1 million. Now, these are the acts that promote trafficking in persons that are likewise prohibited and likewise penalized under Republic Act 10364. Ito na nga po ang binabanggit natin kanina. To knowingly lease or sublease, use or allow to be used any house, building, or establishment for the purpose of trafficking in persons. Kung kayo po ay nagpapaupa at alam ninyo ang gagamit at uupa sa inyong bahay, sa inyong apartment, sa inyong complex ay isang trafficker. So, kayo rin ho ay merong kaparusahan under acts that prohibit, that penalizes promotion of trafficking in person. Hindi sapat ang kadahilanan na nagpaupa lamang ako. Nagpaupa ka nga, imposible naman ilang taon, ilang buwan, ilang araw umuupa yung tao, hindi mo nalalaman na yung bahay na yon ay ginagamit bilang prostitution din. At bilang isang may-ari ng paupahan, you are mandated by law to ask your customers kung ano ang paggagamitan sa bahay. Kaya nga merong tinatawag na know your customer function. Know your customer, tanungin mo, may kakayanan ba kayo magbayad sa upa, buwanan, regular na bayad? Pag sinabing oo, nasagot, itatanungin mo naman, para saan ba? Ano bang paggagamitan nyo sa bahay? Maliwanag ho yun. So, kinakailangan you as the owner of the house, before you lease, sublease, before you rent, kinakailangan maliwanag sa inyo kung para saan gagamitin yung bahay. Hindi sapat na argumento, hindi sapat na depensa. Hindi ko ho alam eh. Okay. So likewise, acts that promote trafficking in persons, pinagbabawal din po to produce, print, and issue or distribute unissued, tampered, or fake counseling certificates, registration stickers, and so on and so forth, or any document as proof of compliance with government regulation. So bawal ho yun. So yung mga nandyan sa rekto, yung yung mga negosyo diyan sa rekto na nagpuproduce ng mga peking mga dokumento, ito ho sila sila ang tatamaan ho rito. So bawal din po mag-advertise, publish by print, broadcast, or distribute, cause of advertisement, publication. So bawal ho lahat ito. In fact, kung nagtataka bakit hindi na napa-flag, bakit hindi napa-flag down ng Facebook, napakaraming mga ads sa Facebook na nagpo-promote ng ganitong klase ng mga krimen. So siguro nagkukulang lang ang ating mga law enforcement agency para paalalahanan ang Facebook gamit ang Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, para paalalahanan ang Facebook using MLAT, oy teka, hindi kayo pwedeng mag-allow ng mga criminal activities sa inyong online platform. Okay. Assist in the conduct of misrepresentation or fraud to facilitate the acquisition of clearances, and so on and so forth. So yung mga fixers din po, tatamaan din po rito. Facilitate, assist, or help in the exit. So ito naman po, ang tatamaan ho rito ay yung ating mga katrabaho sa gobyerno na tutulong para makalabas ang bansa sa international o local airports, mga boundaries, sa mga seaports, ang mga biktima. Maging yung mga private entities na nasa mga airports, halimbawa, magpapagamit ng kanilang mga uniforme, magpapagamit ng kanilang mga IDs para makalusot mula sa airport mula sa seaport, yung mga biktima, sila rin po ay makakasuhan ng acts that promote trafficking in person. Likewise, the act of confiscation, concealing, or destruction of passport, travel documents, personal documents, or belongings of trafficked persons in furtherance of trafficking or to prevent them from leaving the country or seeking redress. So, kapag ang kapag ang agency pagdating po doon sa ibang bansa kung saan man sila magtatrabaho ay automatically kinukuha ang mga documents ng mga biktima, sila din po ay mapaparusahan under acts that promote trafficking in persons. At ito pa nga po yung iba. Ang kaparusahan po ay 15 taon, hindi ba? 15 taon, at ang multa ay hindi bababa ng kalahating milyon at hindi tataas ng 1 milyon. Now, what are qualified trafficking in persons? Ito na nga po. 1. If the trafficked person is a child, kapag bata ang biktima. If the adoption is effected through ginamit mo yung Inter-Country Adoption Act. If committed by a syndicate or in large scale. Okay. When involving 5 or more perpetrators and involving 5 or more victims. Offender is a spouse kapag ang perpetrator ay asawa, magulang, kapatid, or guardian, o kahit sino mang merong authority over the trafficked person. So, teacher na itatraffic yung kanyang estudyante, or any other similar situation wherein there is an authority, the power or authority of the perpetrator over the victim. So lahat po yan qualified. Okay? If the trafficked person is recruited to engage in prostitution and the perpetrator and the customer is a member of the military or law enforcement agency, qualified po yun. Kaya nga lagi kong sinasabi, hindi pwedeng i-consummate yung sexual trafficking, lalo tigit kapag ang magko-consummate ng sexual trafficking ay miyembro ng unipormadong serbisyo, sapagkat po sa inyong pagiging sobrang pabibo, kayo ho ay papasok doon sa qualified trafficking in person, sapagkat sabi nga ho natin, hindi kinakailangan i-consummate. The mere offer to sell is already enough to consummate the crime of trafficking in persons. Other forms of qualified TIP, if the traffic person dies, namatay sapagkat siya ay mutilate, suffers mutilation, and is afflicted with HIV or AIDS, or nahawahan ninyo ng iba pang klaseng mga sexual transmitted infections na nagdulot ng kamatayan doon sa traffic persons. Or if the offender commits one or more violations of Section 4 over 60 or more days. So, paulit-ulit na pambibiktima. If the offender directs or through another manages the victim in carrying out the exploitative purpose. Kapag ginoyo mo lalo ang biktima para makapambiktima ka pa ng iba, ginamit mo pang pamamaraan, ginamit mong middleman, yung biktima mo para makapambiktima pa ng iba. So, that is likewise qualified trafficking. Now, napakabigat po ng kaparusahan ng qualified trafficking in persons. The penalty is reclusion perpetua, 40 years, life imprisonment, at ang fine ay hindi bababa ng 2 milyon at hindi lalagpas ng 5 million. So, maliwanag ho na yung qualified trafficking ay mas nagpapataas ng criminal liability, ng criminal responsibility ng perpetrator. Napakahalaga rin pong pangalagaan ang confidentiality, ang kapagkakakilanlan ng mga biktima. So, under Section 7, at any stage, including rescue, law enforcement officers, prosecutors, judges, everyone involved must recognize the right to privacy of the trafficked person. But the offender, the state, the agents of the state have no similar responsibility to protect the right to privacy of the offender. Kasi hoda kiber, kung talagang trafficker ay forgive me for my French, wala akong pakialam kung may buyang-yang ko siya sa buong madlang people nang malaman at layuan siya ng mga tao na siya ay trafficker. But the victims, we have to protect the right to privacy of the victims so that they will not be ostracized by the community at large. The name and personal circumstances, other information leading to identification of the victim and his or her family shall not be disclosed to the public. So the same right to privacy extends to the immediate family of the victim nang hindi po siya makilala. Law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and judges to whom the complaint has been referred may order a closed-door investigation, prosecution, or trial. So, hindi open to the public, hindi for public consumption yung process of during the time that the case is being litigated, from investigation to the point of actual trial. Well, all of that is meant to protect the identity of the person. Now, it is unlawful for the following to cause the publicity of the name, personal circumstances, or information that may tend to establish the identity of the victim unless victim makes a notarized waiver. So, hindi pwede unless may waiver that is notarized. So, the editors, publishers, or reporters in print cannot. TV or radio announcer, producer cannot. film producer or director cannot, or any other person using tri-media or electronic information technology, they cannot violate the seal of confidentiality relative to the victim's identity. They cannot use the argument that it is in the interest of the general public for the identity of the victim to be made known. Hindi ho. Ang interest ng general public only extends to the perpetrator, not to the victim. Anong kinalaman ng general public para malaman kung anong pangalan ng biktima? Hindi ho. That will not protect the general public from the victim. Rather, the general public must be protected from the perpetrator, not from the victim. So, walang karapatan ng general public para alamin kung sino siya, ang pagkakakilanlan niya. If you violate the seal of confidentiality and you make the identity of the victim known, you are to be penalized with 6 years imprisonment and maliwanag po, and a fine of 500,000 to 1 million. Kulong na, may multa pa. So ano yung mga exploitative purpose na banggit na ko natin ng mga yan? Okay. So, anong prostitution? It refers to any act, transaction, scheme, or design involving the use of a person by another for sexual intercourse or lascivious conduct in exchange for money, profit, or any other consideration. Kaiba ho ito doon sa definition under the Revised Penal Code. Sapagkat sa Revised Penal Code, may karagdagang qualifier. Merong qualifier na habitual. No? Para matawag na prostitute, kinakailangang habitual mong ginagawa under the Revised Penal Code. Hindi ho. Dito sa Republic Act 10364, in accordance to the Palermo Protocol, to the Palermo Convention, you need not to prove that the prostitute does that habitually. You only need to prove that the person that has been prostituted was exploited for that purpose. That distinction has to be clarified. And remember as well that under the Revised Penal Code, the person being punished under the Revised Penal Code is the actual prostitute. Under Republic Act 10364, in keeping with the mandate of the Palermo Protocol, you cannot punish the prostituted person, but you have to punish the person exploiting the prostituted person for allowing her to go through that lifestyle. So maliwanag ho yun. Sa Revised Penal Code, yung prostitute ang may kasalanan. Sa Republic Act 10364, ang may kasalanan ay yung gumamit ng prostitute. So paalala sa mga lalaki at mga lalaking mahilig sa prostitute. Now, so ayan na nga po, So, this definition should not be correlated with Article 202 of the Revised Penal Code that penalizes the prostitute because habituality is an essential element. Okay. Under Article 202, it is the woman who is considered the offender. But here in Republic Act 9208 and 10364, the women and children are not criminals, are not offenders, but rather because they're exploited by means of prostitution, they are the victims. And under this law, the victims of trafficking should not be prosecuted for violations of Article 202 of the RPC. So, hindi ho ninyo pwedeng habulin yung mga kabataang ito, yung mga kababaihang ito under the old RPC. It's a very antiquated law. Kinakailangan nang i-revisit yung RPC na yan para mabigyan ng pag-update sa kasalukuyang kapanahunan. So, how could you punish a woman for undergoing such a lifestyle if that is the only means by which she would be able to survive? So, rather, you punish the person who actually foisted upon her that option. Ang parusahan mo yung taong naglugmok sa kanya sa kanyang klase ng pamumuhay. Bawat customer na bumibili ng kanyang serbisyo ay may kasalanan dyan sapagkat binibigyan mo ng insentibo yung tao na magpatuloy sa ganyang klase ng pamumuhay. So, parusahan mo, ikulong mo yung gumagamit ng prostitute, wag yung prostitute. Now, forced labor and slavery, on the other hand, refers to the extraction of work or services from any other person by means of enticement, violence, intimidation, or threat, the use of force or coercion, including deprivation of freedom, abuse of authority, or moral ascendancy through death, bandage, or deception. This may include cases of child labor. Maliwanag po under the labor code, under the protection of the child, the children are not allowed to work. They are only the labor department allowed them to work under special circumstances if and only if certain conditions are met, in the cases of child actors and the like, no. But to induce children to work, that is not allowed. Now, slavery refers to the status or condition of a person over whom any or all of the powers attaching to the right of ownership are exercised. So, inaari mo na pagmamay-ari, inaari mo bilang isang bagay na meron kang pagmamay-ari yung tao. So, that's what is referred to by slavery. Of course, sex tourism refers to a program organized by travel agencies, tourism-related establishment for the purposes of creating tour packages for the purposes of sexual services. So, pang-R&R, rest and recreation, bawal na bawal po yun. So that is a form of trafficking in persons. So, kayong magbabarkada, napag-isipan lang ninyo, mag-organize kayo ng orgy, tapos kumuha kayo ng kababaihan, o ang preference ninyo ay kalalakihan, kumuha kayo ng kalalakihan, tapos may bayad para makipag-sex dun sa mga taong yon. Well, that is sex tourism. For those who don't know it yet, that is a form of trafficking in persons. Sa Twitter, sa Facebook, napakaraming mga nag-a-advertise ng ganyan. Again, hindi ko malaman kung bakit hindi pa natin nasasawata ang mga yan. Nag-organize ng mga sex orgies, sex parties. That is a form of sex tourism. So that is a form of trafficking in persons. May kaparusahan po yan. Wala lang nasasampulan. Meron naman mga nasasampulan, pero hindi pa masyadong marami. Siguro kinakailangan paramihin. Now, sexual exploitation refers to participation by a person in prostitution or the production of pornographic materials as a result of being subjected to a threat. So basically, ginugoyo mo yung tao, mapababae, mapalalaki, mapabata o matanda na kinukunan mo sila ginagawa mo ng pelikula, ng video. Hindi mo alam, hindi niya alam, halimbawa, tapos ay binibenta mo, sexual exploitation po yun. Of course, death bandage, nabigyan na ho natin ng pagpapaliwanag yan. Pornography, it refers to any representation, no? Through publication, exhibition, cinematography, indecent shows, information technology, or by whatever means of a person engaged in real or simulated. So, maliwanag ang distinction dito. Pornography refers to simulation as well, hindi lang yung real. So, inutusan mo yung bata, yung babae sa webcam na gumawa ng kalaswaan sa kanyang katawan, hindi kinakailangan aktual na gawin ng bata yung kalaswaan sa kanyang sarili. I-simulate lamang niya at mapapaniwala ka na ginawa mo niya yon para sa iyo. That in itself was already a consummation. Kasi ang purpose nun is to be able to arouse your sexual appetite, no? And of course, child pornography, if you do pornography and the victims are children. Now, what are the penalties for the violations, no? Ito po ang mga penalties niyan. Well, we stated this earlier on. This is merely a recapitulation. So, nakikita po naman ninyo, may kaparusahan at merong multa. Now, kapag ikaw ay gumamit, no? Gumamit. Maliwanag ko ito. Section 11, the use of traffic persons. Pumunta ka sa spa at gumamit ka. Pumunta ka sa prostitution din at gumamit ka. Lahat po yung trafficking conditions yun eh. So, if you buy or engage the services of a traffic person, nahuli kayo, na-raid, minalas kayo at na-raid, ito ang iyong parusa. Kapag gumamit ka lamang, 6 to 12 years lang naman. At ang multa mo, 50,000 hanggat 100,000 lang naman. Na pero may kulong ka. Hindi bababa ng 6 na taon hanggang 12 taon. Ngayon, kapag ang biktima ay minor de edad, katulad nung kung sino man, okay, 17 to 40 years lang naman ang pagkakakulong. No, di ba? Maghihimas ka ng rehas ng 17 years, no? At ang iyong multa ay hindi bababa ng kalahating milyon at hindi tataas ng 1 milyon. Ngayon, kapag pinilit mo pa, may elemento ng rape, 40 years na po yan. 1 million to 5 million, no? So, sipin nyo, gumamit ka, no? Ang argumento mo, ginamit ko lang siya, may gusto. Inoffer niya nga, dinala siya rito nung nanay niya, binenta siya sa akin, dinala siya ng kaibigan niya, kaya ginamit ko siya. 6 years lang naman, mababa lang. Bata ka pa paglabas mo kung 20 anyos ka lang. Penalties for violation. If the user, kapag ang gumamit, kapag ang bumili ng prostituted person, ang bumili ng serbisyo ng prostituted person ay public official, he or she shall be automatically dismissed from service. He or she must suffer perpetual absolute disqualification to hold public office. Note, this is only for the use of traffic person. Ayan. Who may file a complaint? Law enforcement agencies. Any law enforcement agency is mandated to immediately initiate investigation and the like. And counter-trafficking intelligence gathering upon receipt of statements or affidavit from victims of trafficking, migrant workers, or their families who are in possession of knowledge or information about trafficking in person cases. Any law enforcement who accepts those information. According to Section 8 of Section 8B of Republic Act 10364, any of the following may file a complaint. Any person who has personal knowledge, the trafficked person or victim himself, the parents of the victim, the spouse of the victims, the siblings of the victims, children of the victim, or any legal guardians of the victim. Ito ang isang argumentative na point. Affidavits of desistance. TIP cases involving TIP cases should not, maliwanag ho, should not be dismissed based on the affidavit of desistance executed by the victims or their parents or legal guardians. So, bawal na bawal ho sa TIP cases ang tinatawag na affidavits of desistance. Wala ho silang binding or legal effect. Any act involving the means provided in this act or any attempt thereof for the purpose of securing an affidavit of desistance from the complainant shall likewise be punishable. If the lawyer of the defense goes up to the victim or to the families of the victim, to the prosecutor, no, for the purpose of them executing an affidavit of desistance, patay ang abogadong niyan, may kulong din siya, no? If a law enforcement officer, yung nagkandak ng investigation, may nagpadrino, no, for the purpose of executing an affidavit of desistance, nilapitan yung complainant o yung pamilya ng complainant para magawa ng affidavit of desistance, may kulong din po sila. All of these means are punishable under Republic Act 10364. Is the testimony of a victim indispensable in the prosecution of trafficking in person cases? Well, remember, consent is immaterial. The consent or knowledge of the victim of trafficking does not exempt or mitigate the criminal liability of the offender. Again, it is not a material fact that can be raised as an issue in the case of trafficking in persons. So please, itatak natin sa ating mga isipan, consent of the victim is immaterial. It is not a material fact. It is not an argument that would support the defense of the perpetrator. Thus, the introduction of any evidence during trial that the victim consented or had full knowledge of the trafficking is irrelevant. So walang point na naipresenta mo yon. That's irrelevant. Now, what about the venue? Well, as we stated earlier on, a place where the offense was committed, now since this is a continuing crime, a place where any of its element occurred, place where the trafficked person actually resides at the time of the commission, or the court where the criminal action is first filed. Now take note, take note that the court where the court that took cognizance, the court that took actual cognizance of the criminal action where it was first filed gets the exclusive jurisdiction. Now, what about the prescriptive period? The general rule is 10 days from the day when the victim is delivered or released from the conditions of bondage. So, ang prescriptive period begins not when the crime was committed, but the prescriptive period begins kung kailan na-rescue yung biktima. So, 10 taon. Okay. Now, kapag ang biktima ay bata, the prescriptive period will commence when that child reaches the age of maturity. No? So, medyo mahaba-haba. Ngayon, ito ay nagiging ang exception nito, ito ay nagiging 20 years, from 10 years nagiging 20 years kapag ang trafficking ay committed by a syndicate, 5 or more perpetrators, or in large scale, 5 or more victims, and if the victim is a child. Now, confiscation and forfeiture. In addition to the penalty imposed for the violation of this act, the court shall order the confiscation and forfeiture in favor of the state, the government, of all the proceeds and properties derived from the commission of the crime. Okay. Now, these are the legal protections provided to the trafficked person. Again, as we stated earlier on, they should not be penalized for any crimes directly related to acts of trafficking during the period of victimization. That has to be qualified. Okay. The victims will not be penalized for unlawful acts committed as a direct result, as an incident or in relation to being trafficked based on the acts of trafficking enumerated under Section 4 of this Act, or in obedience to the trafficker's order in relation to the trafficking. So, kapag ginawa niya yon, base doon sa utos ng trafficker niya, wala ho siyang criminal liability doon. Now, the victim's consent to the exploitation is irrelevant, as we stated earlier on. The victims of trafficking for prostitution under Section 4 cannot be prosecuted or penalized under Article 202 of the Revised Penal Code. Maliwanag po yun. So, kaya sinabi natin, they cannot be prosecuted for being prostitutes. Now, providing authority to a law enforcement officer to immediately place the victim in the immediate custody of the DSWD or any accredited or licensed shelter institution. Likewise, irrelevant po ang past sexual behavior ng biktima. That is inadmissible. Section 17C grants immunity from suit of service providers. Dapat ho protektado ang any law enforcement officer, social worker, or persons acting in compliance of a lawful order from action or suit for acts done in good faith during rescue operation, investigation, or prosecution of TIP. Likewise, any SLAP suit, any retaliatory suit, SLAP suit or strategic legal action for for the performance of public duty against any retaliatory suits filed against the victims of trafficking are directed to be held in abeyance pending resolution or decision of trafficking case. So naka-held in abeyance yun. Kung kinasuhan ka ng retaliatory suit, SLAP suit, hindi mo na didinggin yun. Unahin mo na matapos yung kaso ng TIP. Against prohibition against POEA, law enforcement authorities, prosecutors, and judges to urge complainants, ayan na nga po, to abandon the criminal, civil, and administrative complaint. Likewise, remedies of injunction or attachment of property of traffickers may be issued motu proprio by judges. Likewise, meron hong extrajudicial jurisdiction. The state shall exercise jurisdiction over any act defined and penalized under this law, even if committed outside the Philippines, and whether or not such act or acts constitute an offense at the place of commission, the crime being a continuing offense having been commenced in the Philippines and continued, and other elements having been committed in another country, if the suspect or accused is a Filipino citizen, permanent resident of the Philippines, or has committed the act against a citizen of the Philippines. So, maliwanag po yun. Nagkakaroon ng extrajudicial jurisdiction if the victim is a citizen of the Philippines, or a resident of the Philippines, permanent resident of the Philippines, or the perpetrator committed the act against a citizen of the Republic of the Philippines. So, these are just some of the other salient features. So, that concludes our discussion for this particular section of the trafficking in persons investigation and prosecution. Thank you and good afternoon.